Good day, everyone. So, I recently was having a chat with some people, and someone else's name popped up. Mainly, a Legbeard I know. Although my interactions with the beard were not as bad as others, it's still safe to say, this hoe doesn't care if you're dying. It only cares about her benefit. And here's the cast. Me, Bean, 5'3", basically look like a generic Asian girl with bangs and glasses. Weeabeard, the Legbeard of this tale. She's this Asian chick who is a hardcore weeb. Like sings anime openings all the time, a bit of a hoe, and extremely selfish. She also smells like rotten rice. Red, an awesome person, my best friend from high school. She's very vocal and can make her point clear. As a member of an anime club, I would sometimes attend a convention, mostly for merch, and with other members. We were recently helping out at a convention, and some of the members were signing up, so they can help out with the maid cafe. A maid cafe, or what you assume, is a weeb's fantasy. A bunch of girls, or dudes, but mostly girls, dressed up like maids, who serve you, interact with you, and sometimes meet your demands. Depending on the rules, and the crap you want them to do, I'm texting my friend from high school, and we're planning what time to get there, until one of the members comes up with this girl I'd never met. Since I didn't usually socialize a lot, I'm kinda anxious around new people. I assume that she's a member, that I never noticed. The guy asked me if I can carpool her for the maid cafe. Me trying to be a nice person, said okay. Oh, what a fool I was. But only if she would help with gas. She agreed, and she gave me her Facebook. I really hate using it, but it can be fun in some areas. I get home, and she starts messaging me. We get to know each other for a couple of days, and then something seemed off. Being the idiotic jokester that I am, I jokingly spam memes, and her response was,
"You and your memes, kinky."
Wait, what the? Who says that? When you only know the person for 3 days?
I'm sorry, what?
She then tries to defend herself, and then asked me to take her to the maid meeting, which was held at school for volunteers. I reluctantly agreed, and told her that I would be the last resort. A couple of days rolled around, and it's meeting day. I was in class, when suddenly struggling to breathe. This has only happened to me twice in my life. The first time, I was barely breathing, and not able to lift myself up. It felt as if gravity was pulling me to the ground. The second time, I lost my vision and hearing for 5 minutes, then struggled to breathe, and my body felt paralyzed. I was afraid it was going to happen again, so I rushed to the school health center. I had to miss a class because of this, and it took about 3 hours and 30 minutes for the staff to dismiss me. During that time, I was not allowed to check my phone. When the doctor and medical staff examined me, they kinda have me just stay there. When I was excused, I went to my art class, which I missed an hour of, and my classmates were worried. Although they were worried for my health, Weeabeard was not.
Hey, where are you?
In class? I just got out of the health center. I had a really bad attack. I shouldn't be driving for a while because I don't know if I'm gonna get stuff or worse.
What about me?
What?
You need to pick me up, you idiot.
Rude?
I was literally in the health center. What else am I supposed to do? You never specified a time, and it's going to take 4 hours here and back.
She's starting to have a fit, and saying things to make me feel bad. I was so tired of it, and my classmates who glanced over were as well. I just agreed to take her the day of the convention, and we'd be there early enough for her to get in. She gets a ride from her dad, so that she'd be at the meeting. She keeps telling me to go there, and I do, because I need to kill time. The whole time she keeps texting me,
I can't see you. Cry face.
And so she throws a pity party. The day of the convention comes around. I wake up at 4 a.m. and I head to her place. I was gonna get her at 5 o'clock and we'd be ready by 5:30. I get there at 5 and she's not even ready. I told her the plan, but I guess she wasn't following it. I tell her that we need to get red and get her there before it closed off. And she says something like,
Aw, I'm so sorry. Can you please forgive me? Cry face.
She invites me in, and it had the worst smell of my life. I ended up staying there an hour. And finally, we go and get Red, who is ready and brings me a snack. Red gets motion sickness on the way, so we stop, and I help her by rubbing her back. Weeabeard just looks at her in disgust.
Ugh. Ew.
We all get there, and me and Red go to Denny's. We get our food, and we start talking about the whole interaction that morning.
Bean? That girl is very rude. Why are you giving her a ride?
Sorry, Red, but I kinda got guilt-tripped into it.
That girl? Ugh, she smells freaking gross. I wouldn't date that.
Same here.
We head back, and we have a good time. We both get a bunch of merch, and someone else asked for a ride. They lived near me, and they were giving me 3/4 of my gas money, so I agreed. We all meet up and head home. The dude talks to Weeabeard. Me and Red stay as silent as we can. Once she gets home, she pays me about 1/8 of what I actually needed for gas. I had to deal with all of her crap, and all she gives me is stress. $5. Whoop-de-doo. After that, I blocked her, and I deleted her messages. I'm gonna give you the complete story of the Legbeard Ripper, so strap yourselves in. This will be a roller coaster. Names have been changed because I don't doubt that our lovely Legbeard would try to murder me if she read this. Let's start off by introducing some major players. Zim, my best friend since kindergarten, shares my interest, likes edgy memes, gore art, and really good at drawing. Azure, she isn't too major, although she did witness some of the cringe firsthand, generally polite and quiet. Stoner, very friendly, smokes pot daily, also ate a lot of food, and was generally chill and unconcerned about everything around her. Pipsqueak, a short, entitled, and immature girl who blames all of her problems on those around her. Soundwave, an absolute legend in our school. It's assumed that he graduated, but I'm not certain. He's kind of a skinny neckbeard. Miss Piggy, a rude, brash, loud, and inconsiderate subordinate of Ripper. Mrs. Latin, super sweet old lady, or Latin teacher, very understanding and patient. Mrs. Art, our really cool art teacher. She likes me and Zim a lot, despite the fact that we draw male anatomy all through class. Me, I was Legbait, or Neckbait, at the time of this story. Anime lover, video game enthusiast. A little cringy through the first bit of this story. I tend not to see red flags in people right away. And our main contender, Ripper. We'll describe her very shortly. It was my first day of high school. As a cringy and somewhat socially inept prepubescent kid, Zim and my boyfriend were really the only friends I had, so I would take anyone who showed basic human decency as a friend. Latin was my first class of the day. That's when I met Stoner and Azure. Mrs. Latin begins to take roll after the bell rings. It's almost done when the door creeps open and walks our lady beard of the hour, Ripper. She's about 150 pounds overweight, which doesn't include healthy weight. She was wearing a dirty Deadpool hoodie, ripped jeans, and a black butler backpack. Her hair was wiry and greasy looking, and her teeth, they were more yellow than egg yolk. She plops herself down next to Stoner and I. Desperate to make me at least one friend, I speak to Ripper.
Hey, cool backpack.
Oh, I love Black Butler. Sebastian is my favorite. My name is Ripper, by the way.
We chat a bit for the first few days, since not much work was assigned. I get to talk to Azure and Stoner. At first, Ripper didn't seem out of the ordinary, just a little cringy, but who was I to judge? For the first few days, all she talked about was creepypasta, droning on about
Just love Slenderman. Oh, and don't forget Jeff the Killer.
I enjoyed it somewhat, as Zim interested me in it, but it was a little too much for me, so I eventually stopped listening, and Ripper would just drone on. Ripper never paid attention in class, either always on her phone, sleeping, trying to distract Stoner and I, yet she always seemed surprised when
Got low scores.
Azure and I offered to help, but she got defensive, and she declined. It's important to note that she was a junior when I was a freshman. She retook Latin 3 times. Fast forward a week, Ripper comes in late as usual and smacks a wrinkled paper on my desk. It's a crudely made flyer for an anime club.
My friends and I are starting an anime club. You should totally join.
Fun fact. A semi-popular YouTuber went to my school and documented said anime club in his video. Naturally, I agreed, not wanting to be rude, and I was promised cake. I invited Zim to join me during lunch, and he agreed to go with me. So we arrived in said room right after school. Ripper, Pipsqueak, Miss Piggy, and Soundwave are all there. The meeting was mediocre at best. They played Naruto, they handed out cake. At this point, Zim and I were done mingling, so we decided to chat quietly amongst ourselves in the back of the room. Our voices were no higher than whispers, but apparently it was unacceptable. Ripper and Miss Piggy loudly shushed us. They glared at us and eventually yelled at us in front of everyone that we were being inconsiderate. Pipsqueak and Soundwave were talking much louder and were not scolded by the Legbeard duo. Despite the repeated beratement for various things, Zim and I went to the sad excuse for a club for the rest of the year before deciding it was too much, even for us. Fast forward a few weeks. Undertale has taken the internet by storm. I finished all my routes fairly quickly, and I talked to Azure and Stoner about it, since they had questions. Ripper became curious, and ended up diving headfirst into it after a day or so, which was great at first. We talked about our favorite characters, dialogue, music, etc. Then Ripper escalated her interest in the game. She began showing me, Stoner, and Azure Undertale porn that she had saved off of DeviantArt and Tumblr. All she talked about was how,
Look how sexy Metaton is. He could give me his boner any day.
to this day, her Tumblr is filled with audio posts of his voice, the actor reading sexy lines. She was somewhat of a Nazi sympathizer, crediting her German heritage, even comparing herself to Germany from the anime Hitalia, and claiming that she had to be proud of her bloodline. She also mentioned weird things about wars throughout history, but I didn't pay mind to it because I really didn't know much about it. And she did say that Vietnam wasn't actually a war, which even I know most certainly was. No one asked her for clarification. During this time, Ripper became increasingly violent toward me and Stoner. She once forced duct tape over Stoner's mouth and would rip it off, making the poor girl cry, and then run to the nurse. No matter how many times Miss Latin sent her to the office or had one-on-one talks with her, her behavior never changed. I remember having a conversation with Ripper in the hall when I said something that she didn't like at all. Rather than use words, like any normal person, she slaps me across the face as hard as she can, and I start to see stars.
What the Ripper?
I said, putting my hand on my cheek and trying not to cry. Rather than apologize, she giggled and said,
Oh, I actually feel bad for you.
This is when I started to distance myself from Ripper, which didn't really do much, as it was near impossible to drown her out. And if I'm being honest, I felt a little bad for Ripper. She frequently mentioned that her family life was abusive, physically and verbally, so I really didn't distance myself a lot. The talks about creepypastas, Black Butler, and Undertale persisted. I should also mention real quick that Ripper was not on the spectrum, which is important for what I'm about to recount for you. One morning before school, Zim and I start listening to something that Reaper says to Pipsqueak.
Oh my gosh, Pipsqueak. Sebastian came into my room last night.
Ripper squealed.
That's great, Ripper. What happened?
He came in and hugged me and patted my head.
Aw, he loves you.
I know, it sounds really unbelievable. Zim and I couldn't really believe it either, and we debated whether or not she was serious, and believed that an anime character was real. Zim and I later found Ripper's Facebook, where she posted similar delusional statuses about Slender Man. I can only assume that she genuinely believed these fictional characters were real. One day I was doing classwork. I overheard Ripper telling Azure about a vivid dream.
I had this vivid dream about having sex with Severus Snape. It was so hot.
So yeah, my freshman year came to an end, and I honestly didn't think I would speak to Ripper again, but I'm not that lucky. Sophomore year starts, and for a month or so, I went without seeing Ripper. Then one morning, I see her and she waves me over. She pulls down her stained t-shirt, which revealed a proxy symbol, haphazardly tattooed on her collarbone. At that unfortunate sight, I could only muster up a
Oh, that's cool.
I quickly excused myself from the situation. Here and there, for the rest of my sophomore year, I would see Ripper having fake anime fights with Pipsqueak and Soundwave, or wearing a disgusting Pooh Bear onesie that looked like it never been washed. The last notable encounter during my sophomore year was when she screamed,
Hail Satan!
At some protesters outside the school for no apparent reason. Skipping ahead to junior year, I was under the assumption that Ripper had graduated, and I was happy to learn that Zim and I had art class together. We walked into the class together, and as we opened the door, we saw it. The disgusting poo onesie. Ripper had been held back. Not that anyone was surprised. Zim and I didn't talk to Ripper, but we did overhear some questionable things, most notably that Ripper bragged,
I'm wearing a bulletproof vest to school.
She could have been bluffing, but it was weird nonetheless. This came to a head one day during a silent studio. Ripper had a moment. No one was talking, and they were allowed to use their phones. So, out of the blue, Ripper gets up, slams her chair into the table, and makes for the door. Mrs. Art said with concern,
Ripper, where are you going?
Ripper, glaring at Mrs. Art over her shoulder, simply grunted out,
Don't worry about it.
before stomping off. The entire class stared at the door in disbelief, and Mrs. Art called security. I heard from a friend that Ripper in other classes would normally have meltdowns. Luckily for everybody, Ripper finally graduated. Same with Soundwave. Pipsqueak, she was in my graduating class unfortunately. Zim and I ended up finding Ripper's Instagram recently, and found that she had gotten yet another Slenderman tattoo all up her arm. Zim joked that if Ripper ever read this, she'd hunt me down. Honestly, I don't doubt this. I would also like to clarify that I really don't hate Ripper. I think her situation is a little unfortunate, and it explains some of her actions. The physical violence I find unexcusable. I really wish Ripper the best, and I hope she leads a better life in the future. Today, I bring you a story of a Legbeard. Yes, shocking as it is, some women can be just as bad in the cosplay community as men. First character, me. I'm 23, female, short, attractive looking, at least by my standards. I'm a cosplayer who's done a sexy cosplay before, and I'm in a happily committed relationship. Yoko. She's in her mid-30s, female, she's a great photographer, and she's a friend of mine. Here's the Legbeard. Harley Quinn. She's 22, female, slightly overweight. She's a cosplayer who wears too tight in revealing cosplay for a family-friendly con, and somehow she has a boyfriend. Now to the story. This takes place in October, which is the spooky month, which means horror events galore. I'm attending a local horror-themed convention, dressed as Amanda Young from the first Saw movie. Yes, reverse bear trap, all that I made myself. I was just hanging out with my friend Yoko, which I hadn't seen for a while, and we had just finished shooting some pictures outside of my cosplay, and I'm in a good mood. Then Harley strolls over. She's wearing a Suicide Squad Harley Quinn cosplay, because of course she is. The shorts were way too short. You could actually see her underwear poking out, and the top fits her more like a crop top than a t-shirt, like it's supposed to. Even the fishnets were disgusting. It was fairly obvious that she didn't shave. Now, I'm not trying to be mean, but this girl has a certain reputation in our local community, and it's not a positive one. At one point, I had even called her a friend. I learned that she entered cosplay competitions and lied about making her cosplays. That's a big no in the community. As someone who competed and been a judge for contests, it's a pretty big insult to me. So already, my mood was dampened just by seeing her come over. Anyways, she strolls over and chats pretty friendly at first. I didn't like causing drama, so I just played nice and hoped that she would leave on her own. Something I should mention, Harley had made it known to me that she had a crush on me. When we first met 2 years ago, she told me.
Hi, you.
But I told her,
I'm in a relationship.
and she seemed to back off for a time. She tried asking me out again, where things didn't work out, and I was single, but I told her no. So now, I currently have a boyfriend, whom I'm very happy with. I only mention this because it's a prelude to what happened next. Harley suddenly brings up the topic of some of my cosplay photo shoots, which are, well, not safe for work. I'm not nude, but I'm wearing sexy lingerie. I'm not ashamed of my shoots. I do them because it gives me confidence, and it's something I enjoy doing. As a cosplayer, Yoko tells me I look good in them. It's a nice compliment. Nothing odd. Just one girl appreciating that another girl looks attractive. Harley takes the conversation a bit too far. She tells me,
You're so sexy. I want to you so bad.
let me remind you, both she and I had boyfriends at the time. Then she continues to say something that makes me cringe every time I think about it.
Your pics make me want to ask your boyfriend if I can just borrow you for like 10 minutes, or he can join us. I don't mind.
Something about the word borrow rubbed me the wrong way. Seeing my face clearly red, she laughs it off as a joke and tries to ease the tension, but Harley doesn't stop there.
I'm serious. Anytime you want to have some fun, let me know. Also, I think we should really do a shoot together. You can be my Ivy. It'll be so sexy. We can make out and everything.
After this, I've had it. I told her.
No, I'm not interested in you, Legbeard. You've asked me out before, and I told you no. I'm with my boyfriend, and we're happy together. You need to respect that and just stop. You have a boyfriend too, and I doubt he would be happy to hear you were trying to hook up with other people.
After that, she huffs, as if she had the right to be offended at any of this stuff.
I was just trying to compliment you and show you I like you. You don't have to be such a about it. Gosh, clearly from your track record, you like girls more than boys. So I don't even know why you're with your boyfriends in the first place. I treat you so much better.
And with that, she storms off, leaving me and Yoko grateful that she left our presence. I continued to see her for the rest of the con, but I actively avoided her. However, I noticed that she tried to enter the cosplay contest. She ended up not even placing in the contest. No surprise, since it's a horror-themed convention, and she came dressed as a comic book character. However, I did hear her talking to others later that day about
unfair that I didn't win. My Harley Quinn was 100% screen accurate.
No, it's not. Clearly, she feels entitled to everything. Thank you very much for listening to this edition of the Legbeard Experience. I want to give a special thanks to Raffaella Viola and my wife for supplying the female voices, and myself for supplying one of the female voices. You know, because I got that sexy Legbeard voice. I want to give a special thanks to my patrons. It's really greatly appreciated. I hope to see you guys again next week. And remember, always have fun with your failures, or they'll have fun with you.